A little earlier, we heard about, given we're entering this week of strike action from all kinds of different sectors of public life, that talks between the government and the teaching unions to avert the strike on Wednesday and further potential strikes had broken down. Kevin Courtney joins us, the Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union. Thanks for coming on, Kevin. Tell us what happened in those talks and why they broke down such to the point that you're going to walk out on Wednesday.
Actually, Tom, I don't think it's fair to say they broke down, because that would imply they'd got started. And there hasn't been any sort of offer from the Secretary of State for Education aimed at resolving the dispute. She doesn't mind talking to us.
So what did she say, Kevin?
She said there's a big problem with making any offer because there's a problem of inflation in the country, and we've got to get inflation down, we've got to halve inflation. And the whole public sector wants to get a pay rise, implying that if there's a pay rise for teachers, then everyone else has to have it. So she can't talk with us about anything specific about teachers. We made the point to her, Tom, that there is real disruption in our schools every day, because special needs support assistants are leaving the schools to go and work in supermarkets, depriving children with special needs of support, because there are chemistry classes is the example we use, but many others, chemistry GCSE classes where you have a teacher who doesn't have any chemistry. So you're learning from a textbook. That's disruption every day. In primary schools, we're hearing of schools...
Hang on, learning from a textbook is disruption?
If you've got a chemistry textbook, but your supply teacher or the member of staff has got no qualification in chemistry, then they can't help you with the textbook the way somebody who's qualified with the subject.
But it's better than not being in school at all, which is going to be the outcome for millions of pupils on Wednesday, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we regret that sincerely. We are disrupting children's education on Wednesday, and we are disrupting the home lives and the working lives of parents, and we regret that. But our motivation for taking this action is sincerely about reducing the level of disruption that is happening every day in our children's schools. If you have a succession of supply staff, no matter how good they are, instead of a permanent member of staff, that's disrupting education every day. And so we want to reduce the overall level of disruption.
And so recruiting, to use this example, chemistry teachers is part of the ask because you feel they're not being recruited because of pay?
Yes. We shared with the Secretary of State today a PowerPoint, we went through it, of recent evidence, not from union bodies, but from other reputable bodies, from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, the National Foundation for Education Research, Public First, a right of centre, if you like, think tank, all pointing to the fact that teacher pay has fallen compared with other professions since 2010. Public First say teachers and social workers have suffered the worst from the lost decade of pay growth. IFS says teacher pay has gone down, average pay in the economy has gone up.
I'm not going to dispute that, but would it definitely work in recruiting chemistry teachers? Because apparently, again, according to the figures, I think they're from the Times Education Supplement, there's not a problem at the moment with recruiting history teachers. Against the targets that you need to recruit history teachers for, it's 133%. There's the surfeit of them.
There's an overall missing of the target for primary teachers and for secondary teachers. You can find individual subjects in secondary where we are recruiting enough, but the majority of subjects we are not recruiting. We're not recruiting anything like enough, and I do think pay is part of that problem. If you're a young person finishing your degree, considering where you go for a career, then pay is one of the items you look at. It's not the only thing, Tom. We do point to the excessive bureaucratic workload in our schools. We do point to the class sizes, which are higher than the European averages by a long way. There are other factors, but pay, and our dispute is not just about pay, it's about the funding of pay rises as well, because you have to have the money in the schools to make the pay rises. But these are material factors in recruiting and retaining staff in our schools.
Good to talk to you. Kevin Courtney, Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union.